Today's video will be about casts and moulds. So I will show you the stages of casts and moulds and the processes of them and what it means in the fossil record. So at the moment I have some wet sand here and I have a shell and I'm going to make an impression. The shell is now embedded in the sand the same way as if it was in a natural environment, that it was covered in the sand. And we need to imagine that this sand now becomes lithified. Lithified meaning becoming into rock. And if we just found the shell inside the rock, then we would consider that a body fossil of the shell. But you can also have replacement of the shell. So the actual shell may be replaced by calcite, or it might be silicified. Very unusually, it might be opalized, or there might be pyritization of that shell. The other thing that might happen is that that shell is actually dissolved, and that can happen very easily because this is made out of calcium carbonate. And then that will leave an impression. So now we actually have a mould in the sediments. Well, we're pretending that this is actually sandstone, but this is the same way as would happen in the geological record. Now let's make a cast. I now have some plaster of Paris and some water, and that's what I'm actually going to fill my mould and to create a cast. So I'm going to pour the plaster of Paris. The colour has been changed using a tinting powder. I'll just very gently sort of dribble it in initially, otherwise we'll lose the detail. Otherwise we'll create too much erosion. Got a bit more plaster of Paris. I have a few moulds of trilobites, so I'm going to fill those up. So this is the cast of the mould, that an impression that was made with the shell, and you can see that you have the ridges through here and you have the base of the shell. So if I show the shell next to it, you can kind of see those ridges. If we had a finer sand or maybe even a mud, those impressions would be more defined. So that's another thing to be aware of. The finer the material, the finer the sediment that the shell or the fossil is embedded, the more detail that you will see in the cast or in the impression. Now I do have some of those trilobites to show you. There's a few more. And I've got one extra surprise. So in here I cast this in resin rather than having with plaster of Paris. But it's the same principle. I have a mould and then we're creating a cast. And inside it's a cast of a raptor claw. Specifically a velociraptor claw. So I just need to trim and paint it up and it's ready for display. So the other thing is, once you actually have a cast, that can actually be made into a mould again. So the process can happen once more. So don't think that if you've got a cast, then you might have a mould made out of it. That is possible. I hope that allows you to understand the difference between a mould and a cast.